Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson. We're continuing our study of the book of Jude, the letter of Jude. We're going to be looking at verses 3 and 4 today. Um, I've said, yeah, we said from the very first session of our study of the book of Jude that whereas James, his writing, speaking voice, sounds so much like Jesus, that Jude's not so much. That Jude sounds sometimes like the Apostle Paul, a lot like the Apostle Peter, but also like his brother James, and maybe once removed like his brother Jesus, in that, like Jesus, first and foremost, and like James, he says so much in such a small space. He's very much like, also, and I think we'll start seeing this today, he sounds so much like an Old Testament prophet, and particularly one of the minor prophets. Amos comes to mind. Um, Micah comes to mind. Um, they are the two of the Old Testament prophets, minor prophets, period, that whose vocabulary choices are so vivid. They just pop off the page. The verbs they choose, the adjectives, the adverbs they choose, the examples they choose, just uh, just nail the truth into our heads. They're so vivid, and we see this already in verses 3 and 4, and so he does sound a good bit like Malachi, less like Malachi and more like Amos, I think, to me. But um, um, he doesn't do a lot of waxing poetic. He's got this muscular prose that really reminds me of um, of Amos, as well as it reminds me of Second Peter. Okay, let's read verses 3 and 4. Beloved, while I was making every effort to write to you about our common salvation, I felt the necessity to write to you, appealing that you contend earnestly for the faith which was once for all delivered to the saints. For certain persons have crept in unnoticed, those who were long beforehand marked out for this condemnation, ungodly persons who turn the grace of God into licentiousness, deny our only Master and Lord Jesus Christ. Okay. Um, this is kind of a harsh letter. Um, it is certainly a serious letter. It is a letter of warning. It is a clarion call. It is the tornado horn that goes off every day at noon in Oklahoma City. I mean, it's that. Um, so before he gets into his topic, how many times does he tell us that we are loved, and that he wants us to have love multiple? How many times is love mentioned in regard to the way God feels about us? Well, what's the magic number? Three. Three times. We are beloved in God, love be multiplied, beloved, while I was making every effort. 3 times, three loves. We get loved 3 times, loved up 3 times before he starts to warn us about what's happening. I love the fact, I just love it so much that he says, I wanted to write a different letter, but the situation is different. It's changed. And now I can't write the letter I wanted to write. I wanted to write to you about our common salvation. I wanted to talk to you about God's grace and how deeply we're loved and all the blessings that we have because Jesus died on the cross. I wanted to write that letter, but I can't write that letter. You've not let me write that letter. I have to write this letter. I feel that it is necessary. That verb, it is necessary to write to you. And then he says appealing. He doesn't say threatening, warning, he says appealing. I'm beseeching you, encouraging you. That word is more closely associated with encouragement than it is anything negative. Appealing to you that you contend earnestly for the faith. Wrestle, contend. It's a word of athletic competition. Um, I need you to have your head in the game. I need you to have your eyes on the ball. I need you to not be out in left field somewhere picking daisies. You have to be engaged in this. You need to wake up and be engaged in what I'm writing to you about. He describes the faith. We haven't talked about this, but in the New Testament, It's a small designation, but it's such an important designation. Are we talking about faith or are we talking about the faith? Faith is is 2 Timothy 1 verse 12. I know whom I have believed, and I am persuaded that he is able to keep what I've committed to him against that day. It's what the conviction we have in our deepest being that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God, the one who is to come into the world. As Martha Bethany says to Jesus, yes, Lord, I believe, perfect tense. I have faith, perfect tense. That's faith. The faith is the set of truths about Jesus which we believe. And he said, you have to be engaged, contend earnestly for the faith. The truth about Jesus, that is non-negotiable. You cannot budge. You have to stand firm. You cannot adjust to make someone feel a little bit better or to maybe make room for the falsehood that they've carried in on their trouser legs, in into the Christian fellowship, maybe quite innocently. You can't. What's true about Jesus is essential. And he says that the faith has already been once for all delivered, hapax, once for all. It is has been completely communicated. Doesn't mean there's not more to say about certain situations. Second Peter may not have been written yet. First, second, third John and Revelation and the Gospel of John certainly haven't been written yet. But the truth about Jesus has been fully communicated. We don't need to wait for John Smith to find some, um, you know, testimony in upstate New York. We don't need that. We don't need some angel to translate it in 2,000 years so that people will know what God really needs for them to know. That no, this has been once for all delivered. There's no new truth, essential doctrine to add about Jesus. Verse 4, certain persons have crept in unnoticed. That's so vivid. They've crept in, you know, it's like, spy versus spy or something, they, there's such um, a nefariousness and a nefarious intent assumed in that phrase crept in. I don't know if he means that all of these false teachers thought, hey, let's go wreck Christianity. But all of them came in unwilling to jettison their false notions and insistent that we're going to carry this idea with us into Christianity. And that's not always easy to see on the surface. You don't always know when the dandelion seeds have blown into your garden. You don't know until the dandelions spring up, and that's what he's describing. But he said we were told about this a long time ago, and we were. Jesus in his ministry warned that this was going to happen. Read Matthew chapters 24 and 25. He told us ahead of time this kind of thing was going to happen. And we also know from the prophets of the Old Testament on that such a person is going to receive the consequences of their actions. God takes this seriously. It is not okay to adjust your faith, your essential belief in the truth about Jesus to accommodate more philosophies or maybe a different notice, a different thought about who Jesus is. One of the first big threats to New Testament doctrine was the docetic heresy, that Jesus only appeared to be in human form, and that it seemed like he was, but he wasn't really. And it's almost like he was a hologram, or that he had a fake body that was nailed to the cross, but that really wasn't him. Well, that denies. You think, okay, well, do they think he was really there or just appeared to be there? No, no, absolutely not. Because it denies the essential humanity, simultaneous humanity and divinity of Jesus Christ. If he did not live in the flesh, he's not fully human. So you can't budge on any of these things. Um, it And he's starting right here, and I know I've hit 10 minutes right now. Um, this is the way he's going to conduct the letter. He's not going to mention each heresy one at a time and then take it apart point by point. He's saying this is how they operate, this is what they look like, and that's how you'll know. And he talks about them as being ungodly in three ways. They're ungodly. That word means they're not observant. In other words, they don't play by the rules. They don't follow the they don't worship God the way He has prescribed that they should worship Him. They don't uh, stick to the script of the gospel of Jesus Christ. They are non-observant. And then he says they turn the grace of God into licentiousness. That's another thing you can tell when they use the word to open up the rules so that whatever you want to do is fine, particularly in regard to personal morality. And then he says, and deny our only master and Lord Jesus Christ. When they start denying Jesus was come in the flesh, John will say in 30 years, that's Antichrist. You'll know. And so there are three ways that they're having this effect, and he's going to elaborate on that beginning in verse 5, and we'll pick up there next time. Sorry to take so long on this short little letter. There's just so much there. I will not promise to give you your time back, but I'll try to be better behaved next time. We'll see you then.